what God hates. He says plainly, God hates divorce. Wasn't his original plan. But according to the law of Moses, we're told that Moses permitted it, i.e. God permitted it because of the hardness of their hearts. And divorce was allowed. And even in the New Testament, Jesus speaks about what God has brought together, let no man separate. But except for the cases of unfaithfulness, which would be, sex outside of that marriage bond, which shows you how important sex is. People who minimize sex as just being casual do not understand just the bond that it breaks, that it makes in marriage and that it breaks when you violate it. But because it does violate the marriage bond, and except for that, divorce would be unacceptable. In the New Testament, you come to, or in the epistles, Paul the Apostle speaks about, the unbeliever, if they depart, the believer is not in bondage, and some have found another basis for divorce in that if the unbeliever departs, let him depart, and you're not in bondage, and you can be free to remarry. The fact is, divorce is not God's original plan. It's a result of sin, somebody's sin, and you don't want to be guilty of committing an unbiblical divorce, that is getting a divorce without biblical grounds. And if you are, it is sin. And I think a lot of Christians are carrying a lot of guilt because of this sin and never really owned up to it. They've always excused the divorce because of the partner that they had, and they did this and that. And they had to get out, and irreconcilable differences are listed in the courts and many other things like this. But look, it's a long subject because I think people that are struggling in their marriage really need to get some good godly counsel, and they need to really come back to the commitment, because 80%, I think statistically, 70 to 80% of marriages that ranked very unhappy when they stuck it out for an additional 5 years, that 70 to 80% of them now say that they're now happy where they were once very unhappy. The things you learn when you fight through difficulties and pains and struggles, instead of just taking the easy out. Anyone who takes the easy out, really you're taking the hard out, because the hard way is going to come after they've taken the easy way. And it really doesn't end well for people taking the easy out. So I would encourage people to get help in their marriage, but to make a long story short, or a long answer short, divorce apart from a biblical ground would be sinful. And unless you confess that sin and forsake that sin, you're going to have to stand before God on that.